is M-rated and 99 minutes in duration. It's a Danish comedic drama, a story about growing old with fun. Well, now, okay, I was very challenged by this movie just to get through it. I've got to say that. I won't go on too much more. Before I give you a bit of the script, if you like, Marie or Mari, Vanya and Burling. They're three women. They're childhood friends who get together periodically, although Mari tends to find any excuse not to get together with the other two. Now, she's been married for 44 years to Henrik. They actually work together as accountants. But he appears a distant figure. At Christmas, when their offspring present them with a trip to Italy for an exclusive cooking class, Henrik is not very pleased. And it turns out he's actually having an affair. So a mortified Mari is joined instead in Italy by school pals Vanya and Burling. Vanya's a retired teacher who dotes on her dog more than her daughter. She lost her hubby Jens 8 years ago, but remains devoted to him and to his memory. Burling, well, she's more of a free agent, an auctioneer who falls pregnant to a married man, and then she was afraid of being a bad mum, so she sent her daughter off to boarding school. Also on this cooking course at a beautiful Italian villa is a couple reaching middle age called Morton and Met, and they've got a 10-year plan to visit all the world's cuisines. They're into health and fitness, they want to remain youthful, but she's about to confront an inconvenient truth. And finally there's Jacob, who's a landscape gardener with a couple of teenage boys, just loves Italy and Italian food. Their amiable host and chef is called Alessandro. Issues abound during his charge's stay. I think it's a week, something of that nature, they spend on this cooking course. So that's the subject matter. I'm very, very sorry to say this, Peter, but I hardly think the food club could have been any more predictable than it turned out to be. What do you think?
Look, I didn't mind it. It's obviously meant for a female demographic in terms of audience, but there must be something about the Danish character or Danish culture that sort of permeates the relationship between these women, and we'll see that same sort of thing come out in a different storyline, of course, in another round. But certainly the food club is about growing older, about challenges of life, about relationships, and of finding new meaning or new ways of life, obviously based perhaps on a rather stultifying original culture that these women come from. So look, overall, I didn't mind the film at all. I think it had a reasonable trajectory in terms of the story. Yes, it is a little bit predictable, and it does shoot for a happy ending, but nevertheless, I didn't mind it at all.
And Greg King?
Yeah, look, we've seen this sort of thing before. This is a low-key Danish-Italian co-production. They're shot largely in Italy, and there's a lot of scenery of Italy there that is sort of what wants you to go back and visit the place. It's a gentle film about friendship, getting old, getting to rediscover yourself, the joys of life, sex, and good food there. It's sort of in the same vein as things like The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, but it doesn't have the star power of that film. But it does deal with a lot of issues of people growing old, gracefully or disgracefully, one or the other. It's a bit of a life-affirming drama celebrating older people there. There's lots of scenes of cooking and glimpses of the sun-drenched Italian landscape, which of appeal to a lot of audiences there. And as Peter said, it will appeal to audiences of a certain age and a certain demographic there. And I thought the three actors brought some light and shade to their various characters there. And the direction from Barbara Topso-Rothenberg I thought was leisurely but empathetic to the plight of the women there. So, yeah, look, but I agree, it is a bit predictable.
Well, Dave, am I the only one? This made my skin crawl.
Look, sometimes I feel like I must be 20 or 30 years older than what I actually am, because I quite often enjoy these films that are meant for an older demographic to me. Look, I agree with you. It was very predictable. It was very easy to see where it was going to end up, but it wasn't one of those movies where I found myself writing my shopping list during the film because I tuned out from what was happening on the screen or anything like that. I found it enjoyable. It's not a movie that I would probably rush back to go and see again, but I thought the leads did a pretty good job. Like you said, you're right, it's predictable, but enjoyable for me.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I found this excruciating to watch. I thought it was transparent, manipulated, manufactured crap. I mean, and that's not to put too fine a point on it. I could go a lot worse than I've just said. I just thought the director brought a really heavy hand to the screenplay that was by another person. Anne-Marie Olsen Thingris was the screenwriter. But I just didn't think the film had self-belief, and therefore I also struggled throughout to believe it was anything more than actors acting, and not very convincingly at that. I did not buy the relationship, for example, that the landscape gardener had with Vanya, not because he's considerably younger, rather it simply didn't ring true, and nor was I convinced by Marie's attempted muscling in on this couple. Very little happens for the first hour, and then a series of dramatic moments are introduced into the picture to try to keep us interested. I mean, then most of those are dispensed with very, very quickly. Sure, there's some nice scenery, there's some mouth-watering food shots. How often have we seen that in foodie movies? But there's little of merit. The three aging women, sure, they talk sex to try to spice things up, but I wanted and I expected so much more. I mean, if it's obvious that you're looking for, then the Food Club may well be worth a look. I think of this as a poor cousin to, say, Book Club, which came out a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now. Otherwise, I would give this one a big miss. I reckon it's mighty hard work. I'm going to start it off. This movie should be avoided at all costs. The Food Club gets a 2 out of 10. Dave?
I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than you. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
You passed it. All right, Greg?
5 out of 10 for me. Nice, pleasant, but too predictable for me.
All right, Peter, au contraire.
No, actually, I quite liked it too. I gave it 6 out of 10.
All right, but I mean, none of us, that's hardly an emphatic endorsement, but it's, obviously you guys thought a lot more of it than I did. So, fair and reasonable, but, name your poison, I'm afraid, is what I would say. I want to, just as a sort of stopgap here, because we're talking entertainment in general,